parents reaching from ear to ear.
You know what? We're talking about kids fishing, of course, here on the Florida Insider Fisher Report, which starts now.
We are so excited to have everyone with us in the studio today. Kids, parents, DJ Jose, and we have a live band in the studio, the Bride Snappers. Welcome. Well, Rick, it's going to be a fun show highlighting the future of fishing, which are sitting right here in our studio.
You're absolutely right, Brie. And you know, we have a lot of shows, and one of my favorites for sure is this show out of the 26 that we do every year. This is really a bomb.
Mine is too. All right, we also need to mention our special guests from CCA Star, the IGFA, and Ron Miguel from Do Miami. Thank you for being here with some of our captains and sponsors. And of course, we always have Dave Farrell at CCA Workbench.
Yes.
Along with Mike Holliday from our Fish Bites East Region. Dave, are you ready to take the youngsters fishing?
We are ready, and show the parents how to do it.
And keep them happy.
So you know, Brie, since the kids were little, we always took them fishing. I got a few photos I want to share with you guys, and it's so awesome that we have Colin and Ridge with Stu App. You know, Colin's named after Stu. And then this week, we also have Ridge, who just fished in a ladies tarpon tournament and actually won first place, so that's a big deal.
Congrats.
And then Colin also had a big week, and this is what happens when they grow up out of the Florida Coast Equipment employees. He was the employee of the month out of 270 employees in the state of Florida.
Wow, that's amazing, Rick. You should be proud. Proud Papa right there.
We are proud.
All right, well, we're gonna get our kid craze started in the Yanmar ASB Keys region, who graciously donated some swag for our guests with Captain Sarah Stanzik, and she 150% knows the game of kids fishing. Am I right, Sarah?
Yes, I actually brought a kid with me tonight. Sadie's here.
Sadie.
Next to mine.
Hi,
They're next
Sadie.
to mine.
Yeah, they're the little captains. Wave. Shy.
They're new to this thing. All right, Sarah, let's get started in your report.
Yes, so kid fishing is tons of fun. And it's always a laugh, it's a good time. There's many options for taking kids fishing in the Keys too. Reef fishing is great because there's usually a wide variety of fish, so there's lots of cool things for the kids to see, from grunts to groupers. And usually it's one bite after another, so it keeps them entertained. Even shallow patch reef spots can be loaded with crowd-pleasing grunts and jacks, and you'll have the kids hooked up nonstop for hours doing things like that. Inshore can be fun too, with sharks, moorjacks, snappers, and all of your light tackle favorites like little snook, redfish, and trout. As a mom, my biggest tip for taking kids fishing, and Brie will agree, make sure to bring plenty of snacks. Snacks on the boat, snacks keep everyone happy. Here's a young angler, Julian is his name. Take a look at this picture. There's a tiny little fish to the right past the dog. That was his first fish he caught off the dock. Tiny little fish. He was so excited.
That's so cool.
That's all it takes.
Tell us about the yellowtail, Sarah.
Yellowtail snapper fishing in the Keys has been good lately. Plenty of nice sized fish being caught. You're going to want to anchor in 60 to 90 feet of water. Use lots of chum with oats, and sand can help too off the back of your boat. Look for good water movement. Fluorocarbon leader is a must, with a small jig head and a little piece of cut up bait like a shrimp or ballyhoo. A big yellowtail will happily eat a live pilchard as well. Be patient when you go yellowtail fishing, because sometimes you'll sit there for an hour and chum and you don't get bites, and you just gotta wait sometimes, so be patient. They're fun to catch on light spinning gear, great for kids to catch. Here's a happy little guy with his yellowtail he caught for dinner.
Let's see it.
Nice.
Yeah,
Perfect.
good one.
Get him out there.
All right, let's go inshore, Sarah.
Moving inshore, mangrove snapper, one of my favorite fish to eat. They're really good tasting, nice white meat. They also are easy setup for tackle, just 20-pound leader with a 1/4-ounce jig head and a live shrimp. Have you hooked up to mangroves all day long. If you can put this little video up, make everybody laugh, I think I sent it. There's a cute little video of Claire. Watch.
Don't let him bite you.
Okay.
Want to touch him?
Looks like me.
Little Claire.
Listen.
What type of fish?
And she was like, it's snapper.
A
She's a snapper.
Just like Rick.
Aw, snapper.
was
That's
funny.
Claire, my other daughter, so she was catching mango snapper. Last fish, we're gonna go to bonefish, another one of my personal favorites. Great beginner trophy fish for kids too. Like they're small, easy to catch. They scream the drag. They put up a great fight. They're exciting. Light spinning tackle, light gear. It's nothing heavy. Live shrimp. Be easy for kids to land a bonefish. Here's young William with one he caught, and you can tell by his smile, he's so proud. He's only 4 years old with the
Cute.
bonefish.
That's
So amazing.
I know.
awesome. Thank
I
you
love
for
it.
all the pictures, and thank you for
Yeah.
bringing Sadie.
You're welcome. We've had fun.
Next year, we get both of them, Sadie and
I don't
Claire?
know. Claire might tear this place up, but we'll see.
Well,
We
she'll
all
have a
too.
lot of competition. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here.
Thanks,
but it is
Dad.
time to take a look at the shallow sport boats hotspot from the Florida Keys. He said mangrove snappers around now and easy to catch with live pilchards or shrimp. They pull hard for their size and that they are also fun fish to target with the kids in the family, and as you know, they're great to eat. And then offshore, the blackfin tunas are offshore on the humps. Live pilchards or cigar minnows, vertical jigs, and poppers will get the job done.
All right, Rick. Well, this week we have some Keys tournaments for everyone, but first we want to congratulate 13-year-old Chase Johnson from Cujo Key, who won the Lower Keys Dolphin Tournament fishing with his father, Captain Jason Johnson. He caught a 37.1-pound dolphin, earning his Triple J team first place and $7,500 in the 30th annual Lower Keys Chamber of Commerce Dolphin Tournament, which ended June 4th. So congratulations.
Nice.
But now on to more Keys tournaments. We have the Isla Mirada Fishing Club Captain's Cup Dolphin Tournament, where the winner take all grand prize of up to $25,000 is awarded to the team that posts the highest aggregate weight of 3 mahi-mahi. And then we have the Key West Association of Realtors Charity Fishing Tournament, where anglers compete for cash prizes and to benefit Fair Insurance Rates Monroe, while targeting sailfish, mahi, blackfin tuna, and kingfish. And finally, we have the Key West Marlin Tournament, celebrating its 41st year, set for July 19th through the 22nd, and features $50,000 in cash prizes and coincides with the annual Hemingway Days celebration. For more information on Keys tournaments, head to flakeys.com. All right, let's head into another swag donator, the Startron Central West region, and see what the kiddos are catching on the ocean playground with Captain Jeff Page. Jeff, what's up?
That's right. I have one quick question. Rick, how old were you when you caught your first bonefish?
Probably 8 or 9. I caught it at Stiltsville.
All right. That was pretty impressive, a 4-year-old with a bone.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Anyway, when it comes to taking kids fishing, just about any body of water is good in our complete region of our whole state, and that includes all our lakes inside. But the Startron Central West region, we not only have a lot of good places to take kids, but we have a lot of good fishing activities for the kids year-round. And they have a weekly tournament every week out of Hart's Landing, which is right at the foot of the Ringling Causeway. And you can go right there and sign up, and you don't have to have a boat to do it. You can fish off the seawalls, and they have different categories and prizes for all the kids. We also have some kids' camps from Tampa down to Boca Grande, and the one that we have here in Sarasota is called Sarasota Fishing Camp, and it's run by R.C. Gilliland, and you can still get your kids entered in that. You can contact me, and I can get you in touch with them, and that goes on pretty much the whole month of July, which is coming up. Now, as for actually fishing with the kids, I know Sarah mentioned it. It's really good to start them out simple stuff, like shrimp under a cork or a pilchard under a cork, and have them where there's a bite. And like she said, have plenty of snacks. But if you're coming with me, you better bring double the snacks, because I like eating the kids' snacks myself.
Yes, you do.
You've seen me do it.
I know.
Anyway, in freshwater lakes, same rigs can be used. Just put a worm or a minnow under the cork. Now, as the kids get better at casting and retrieving, which they will, then you can maybe put a soft plastic jig, like a gulp shrimp, underneath the cork, or just a straight quarter-ounce soft plastic jig on a jig head, and keep it on cleaner bottom so they're not going to get hung up, and teach them that method. Trout, ladyfish, small snook, bonnet-head sharks. Kids love catching them, and they're real easy to catch on shrimp. The water's usually clear in my region, so they're always going to see what's going on around them, which helps. And one of our longest guides in Sarasota area, he's retired now. His name's Captain Johnny Walker, and he was guiding when I was still a teenager. And Johnny Walker always said this at the end of his little fishing show that he had on our news channel. He said, you better take a kid fishing because someday you may need them to take you fishing.
Oh.
Yeah. So that being said, I got a couple cool pics tonight from Captain Rob Fredericks of Bradenton. He takes a lot of kids fishing, and those are both some of his kids that have fished on his boat, the one with the snook and then the one with the redfish. I like that little guy with the redfish.
All right, you better move on. Keep going,
All right,
Paige.
tarpon fishing. Tarpon fishing really remains good. Early in the morning, live crab. As the day goes on, threadfin and pinfish under a cork. And my picture tonight is of Tabby Hellbusher. She's 15, and she won the junior division of the Sarasota Tarpon Tournament.
Nice.
Offshore red snapper remains the most sought after. The weather has kept a lot of the boats close to shore because of the high seas. Bigger boats have been getting out to them and doing pretty good on them. Captain Tim No, Captain Jason Stock, 150 foot and deeper. Live pinfish and frozen sardines, good bait. And Bo Johnson had a big day in the Boxem. And my picture tonight with the red snapper is a father and son that were out with Captain Jason Stock with a nice red snapper. And my last species, barracuda, another easy to fish to catch near shore reef. And they're on all the 1 to 3 mile reefs. Live baits are the best baits. You want to use a piece of wire if you want to land them. But they will hit flashy lures like spoons. And my last photo tonight is a really good one of Captain Kaylin, the flying Hawaiian O-layer, 4-year-old daughter, Mykyra.
All right, thank you so much, Paige. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the daiquiri deck hotspots from the Central West region. Captain Page says inshore big snook at night in the passes and the inlets from Stump Pass north to New Pass. Live silver mullet and ladyfish are the best baits. And then offshore, good red snappers holding on hard bottom areas and ledges in 150 to 200 feet of water off of Venice. You want to try live pinfish or pilchers are going to be the best bait for them, Brie.
All right, the Front Runner Boats Northeast region is up for a play date next, but first we're having a little play date with Dave Farrell for Academy Sports and Outdoors, Rigs and Techniques at the CCA Workbench. Dave, Mike Holiday, what are we doing?
Well, we're going to be talking about having kids catch a fish.
Woo! All you gotta do is
Catch a fish.
We'll be back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Sirius XM Marine. Weather. Fish mapping. Entertainment. Penn. Let the battle begin. Casa Vieja Lodge. 5-star angling in beautiful Guatemala. Shallow Sport. Legendary performance. And Daiquiri Deck. Food, drinks, friends.
So, Dave, we're here at the CCA Workbench, and it's
Yes, sir.
time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors, Rigs and Techniques. So what are we talking about, taking these babies, and what are we going to do with them?
First off, if you're planning on going fishing in a boat, make sure that you follow all the regulations about, life jackets and stuff. In the state of Florida, all children under 12 or 13 years of age on a boat under 26 feet needs to wear a life jacket of some sort. And when you've got the little kids around, those big orange Coast Guard life jackets will save you, but they're not good to have on all day. It's better to not get a nice jacketed life jacket, kinds of made for skiing and swimming and whatnot, so that you're not all puffed up. And when you're a little kid, when you're wearing one of those things, they're incredibly uncomfortable for me. I can't imagine. I put one on my kids when they were little, and it was just like, they're fighting that thing all day.
That explains a lot, Dave.
Yeah, that's why they don't fish with me much anymore. So, that's one of the things. You need to limit the times to keep the kids interested. All the kids have an attention span of like a husband. We don't keep track of things very well. We want to get on to the next thing. And the kids are the same way. So, try to keep it short. Go early so you can get done before it gets hot, or go in the evening so you can get done before it gets dark. And that way you have a time limit set. we're going to fish until here, keeps everything nice and cool, keeps people from fishing in the bad part of the day. Like everybody has said, bring plenty of water and drinks and stuff. I make it a big deal to bring a lot of sunscreen and stuff. All my kids were redheaded. They're translucent children. You can see their guts if you hold them up to the light. So I had to slather them down. And the spray, you can't really tell where the spray goes. So it's better to just get old fashioned and get it on your hands and rub them down.
Right.
Because, and the spray, if you spray that stuff on the boat, it gets on the boat and gets slippery and everything. So go ahead and get your hands dirty and lather them up. Try to go to a place where you're going to catch some fish. A dock or a ramp somewhere where a lot of people feed the ducks and whatnot. You can throw some bread in and get them chummed up, and it's an automatic thing. Get a nice bobber. A bobber is always great for kids because they can see it. They can get that visual. Hey, the bobber's going down. Now we can, instead of having to feel it. And once they get the feel of it, they don't need the bobber anymore. But the bobber is great. And it's even great when they get older and you start fishing for trout and reds and stuff because, again, you can see the bobber, you can work the bobber, and catch fish with them.
Spoons.
Love to use a spoon because all this stuff up here is pretty much throw it out and reel it back. You don't have to do a whole lot of, finesse. There's no worms up here. It took me, I was 16 years old before I could slow down enough to use a worm because I wanted to work it, And so all these things here, paddle tails on a jig, a curly tail on a jig, spinner baits, any of those type of things, they all work great because all you have to do is cast it out and reel it back to you. And that's the best part. When you're going bait fishing offshore, let the kids catch the bait. It's really easy to catch bait on a sabiki rig. Catching two and three, it's more fun than fishing a lot of times is catching the bait for the kids. And a nice sabiki rig from R&R Tackle is a great way to do that.
You got time for me to share a story?
Yes.
So I used to take Ridge and Colin when they were babies, and we would catch pinfish on a sabiki.
Right.
And at the end of the day, we would take all the pinfish back to the bait and tackle store. They would pay us 50 cents a pinfish. I'd give the money to the two boys,
Yeah.
and then if they wanted something in the store, they had to pay for it from the money that they earned catching the bait.
Nice.
So they, at a young age, they learned that you got to work in order to make sure, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Rick real well, most of the time we were buying ice cream.
Yeah. Well, and when they first start out, this kind of gear is great. Spin casters and stuff like that. It's practice, just like anything else. They're going to get good at it the longer you let them do it. If you have 2 or 3 kids out there, it's always better than just having the single guy. Try to get some help, so he can all be buddies and whatnot. And it's almost impossible to have a sword fight with yourself.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 rods, it's always better to have a sword fight with. Wading is great for the kids once they get 5, 6, 7 years old, and you can wade in the water. You can see all kinds of really cool stuff, and you have a lot of fun just wading. Whether you catch a fish or not, because you're in the water. So that's a good thing to do.
I had a lot of fun listening to you tonight. I
Well, thank
appreciate
you.
that.
No
I hope
worries.
you guys learned a lot too.
I had a lot of stuff more.
How about you, Brie? Did you get it?
I got it. Dave, those are some pretty good tips, 100%. All right, another captain who knows all about the kids fishing game is Captain Tommy Derringer in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region. Oh my goodness, you have all 3 girls with
Say hi,
you.
girls.
Hi, girls.
They're all here. The whole crew is here, man. We love some kids fishing here in the Front Runner Boats Northeast region. My girls all love fishing. Like Rick's saying, man, you can teach them lessons on the boat that don't seem like lessons, and it's a lot of fun. But we have a lot of opportunities here for the kids in the Northeast region. Although having a boat to take the kids fishing out is a blast, you really don't need a boat to get the kids on some fish. We have some very kid-friendly fishing spots like the St. Augustine, Jacksonville, and the Flagler Beach piers. And we also have quite a few public parks that are right on the water, both in the salt and the fresh stuff. And of course, we have a lot of beaches throughout the region. And that could be one of the best places to take a kid fishing because if the kid gets bored while they're fishing, they can take a break and go toss the Frisbee or go for a swim. And also lots of snacks. It's all about the snacks. I'm sure everybody's going to talk about that tonight. And another great way to get kids involved in fishing is to join one of the local fishing clubs. There's the Ancient City Game Fish Association, the Flagler Sport Fishing Club, the Jacksonville Offshore Sport Fishing Club. That's just a few of them. All those clubs, they're involved with kids fishing. They have clinics and fishing tournaments throughout the year just for the kids. And joining the CCA, that's also a great way to get the kids involved. The CCA Star Tournament has a kids division. That's a whole lot of fun that we do with my kids. Now, my favorite fish and my kids' favorite fish, the redfish, It's a great fish to get the kids started on. You know, you can catch them from just about anywhere there's some salt water. You know, over the next few months, the redfish are somewhat of an easy target, as you can just rig up a jig with a live or even a dead shrimp and catch them in just about any of the creeks throughout the region. If you're looking to bend a rod, it's a great time to get out there with your kids, catch some of those redfish. You know, speaking of catching redfish with your kids, I've got a picture here.
Oh.
This is my 5-year-old daughter, Owen, with her biggest redfish to date. She reeled that guy in all by herself, and she was pretty stoked about it.
Go, Owen. That's
Now,
awesome.
They said, go, Owen. Now, the tarpon, guys, tarpon season has kicked off over the last couple of weeks throughout the region. There's some big fish chasing pogies along the beach. And I've had a couple of reports of some tarpon behind the shrimp boats as well, although I haven't seen them myself yet. Now, some of the best tarpon action is still coming from the inlets. With the low water first thing in the morning, it's going to be a good call to hit the inlets and look for some fish busting on some mullet and pogies. Free lining or floating a good-sized mullet on a 5 to 7-aught circle hooks, that's going to be the go-to for those inlet fish. Also, tossing a large swim bait like that R&R tackle slide bait is also a good option. You know, you can make a really quick cast right in front of the rolling fish with that guy. Now, there's also quite a few of those smaller tarpoons in some of the bigger creeks and canals, and that can be a great introduction for kids to a tarpon. You can float a little shrimp over to them. But you know what? Some kids, they like to go straight to those big tarpon, and I've got a picture of just that. This is Chloe Bedford with a nice tarpon that she caught with me last week, along with her dad, Chris. That was her first one. It was really, really cool to see that happen. Now, moving offshore, guys, the kingfish bite is the most consistent thing happening offshore at the moment. The nearshore reefs, like 9 Mile out of St. Augustine, they're holding a lot of kingfish in that 10 to 20 pound range. Now, the usual slow trolling with pogies, that's the go-to for all the kingfish crew right now. And there's still some bigger fish hanging out near the beach as well, although it seems to have slowed down just a little bit. Probably pick up along the next moon. Now, the inlet rips on that early morning outgoing tide is going to be worth a look this weekend as well if you're hoping to catch a nice kingfish. And I got another picture here of a kid. His name is Rivers Leary and his mom, Erica. They're from Granada Pier Bait and Tackle. They got a nice kingfish there right along the beach. And that's a lot of fun right there. You're moving the boat so it's not quite as hot for the kiddos. They all like that a lot. Now, also offshore, you know, it's also consistent right now, the mangoes and the mutton snapper as well. They're fired up offshore. They do this every year. They've started to group up and spawn over the reefs and wrecks in about 120 to 140 feet of water. Chumming is a great way to get those fish to eat. Chunking up some sardines or pieces of bonita and drifting them back in the current, that's going to be the go-to. The average size of those mangoes is about 6 to 12 pounds. We got some mangoes that go 14 pounds this time of year. I got one last picture. This is Jacob Carter with a nice mangrove snapper he caught with Jeff Patterson just north of Ponce Inlet last week.
All right, Tommy, thank you so much. As you can see, I saw you got your girls. I got my girl here with me. Thank you. Great report this week, bud. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the strike zone, northeast hotspots. Tommy says that inshore, the tarpon are at the inlets on the last of the outgoing and the first of the incoming tide early in the morning, and look for the rolling fish and look for them busting mullet. And then offshore, kingfish on the nearshore reefs throughout the region, slow troll pogies, ribbon fish, or maybe even a big mullet. What do you think, Brie?
I think Tommy can get those girls on some fish right there. I'm proud of him. He's a great dad getting all those 3 girls out there. But the real legends, Central East and Sea Sucker Panhandle regions, are ready for their sandbox reports next. And we're also chatting with our friend from IGFA. So stay with us, kids. We'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Power Pole, Total Boat Control, Berkeley, Your Fish, Our Science, Bahio Sunglasses, Blue Light Blocking, Radically Clear Lenses, Sea Sucker, Easy On, Easy Off, Incredibly Strong, Blue Water Outriggers, everything for your outdoor adventure, Kubota, Together We Do More, Front Runner Boats, performance-built offshore fishing boats made in the USA, and Yanmar ASV, a leader in compact equipment.
And as you can see, joining me now is Lisa Morris from the International Game Fish Association. Lisa, it's a busy time of year for you guys at the International Game Fish Association, so why don't you tell us why you're here?
Well, the reason why it's so busy is last week was the start of our fishing summer camp. So we have 8 weeks of summer camp going on. We are fishing all summer long with kids ages 7 to 14 years old, and it's just a great experience.
So let's talk a little bit about the camps. How many days are they? When does it start?
So they're week-long sessions, and they start on Mondays. So Mondays and Tuesdays are the basics days where we teach anything from how to rig up your own rod and reel to how to tie your knot, how to put on your bait, what types of bait to use. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays, we travel to different field trip sites for freshwater, fishing for peacock bass or largemouth bass, and then also saltwater locations too, like maybe from a pier, fishing for snappers and groupers. And then on Friday is the drift boat fishing trip out on the Reward with Captain Wayne.
So let me ask you something. So how does it work? People sign up and then they drop their kids off? They pick them up each night? They don't spend the night at the IGFA,
No,
right?
they don't spend the night. So yeah, it is a pick up and drop off type of camp. And then the parents do have to bring lunches, and we do recommend a lot of snacks for the campers because yes, they eat all day long and we keep them busy too.
All right, well, if people want to know where they can go to find out more about it, where do they go, Lisa?
They can actually go right to our website. It's right there on the main page because it's one of our biggest events throughout the year for the education department.
And that website is?
igfa.org.
All right, thank you so much for keeping us clear on that. Bree, where are we going next?
Thank you, Lisa. That sounds like a fun camp. All right, well, Jim, by the looks of it, the kids of the Real Legends Central East region really know how to get their catch and smile on, don't they?
I tell you what, I got some great photos this week, and you guys are going to love them. But you know, there's a lot of things that you have to do with kids, and one of the things is you have to, as an adult, not put your expectations on the child. And so you're going to hear a bunch of great tips from all of our regional captains tonight on how to get and to keep the kids interested in fishing. But I'm going to give you my personal story on how I approached it with my own son, because I got a great lesson on how not to do it from a source that will yet be unnamed, just prior to getting married and having my own son. Now, this father's idea of taking his 4-year-old son out at the time with him fishing in the boat was to get out at daybreak and stay out all day long. I fished with him twice, and both times this same thing occurred. He wanted to fish in the flats for redfish, and that requires you being very quiet and staying, really stealthy so that you don't spook the fish. Well, his son was a wiggle worm. He couldn't sit still. And so all day long, all you heard was the dad yelling at the kid, "Sit down and shut up. Stop moving. Stop shuffling your feet on the bottom of the boat. Quit messing with the bait fish. Stop slamming the bait well lid," and so on. And so you can get the idea. The kid couldn't do anything right in his dad's eyes, and the child was absolutely miserable on the boat. He hated going fishing, and he came home completely sunburned, degraded, and just after spending the whole day out on the water, he just really didn't want to do it. So when I took my son out, I started taking him out as a baby, and we started fishing when he was around 2 years old. So I didn't want to be like this other guy. So our trips consisted of going only for a couple of hours. We would net some bait sometimes, or we would buy it at the bait store. Then we would fish for about 30 minutes. Then we'd normally run over to a spoil island or a bank somewhere where we could get out and swim and skip rocks and throw sticks and chase crabs with the bait net and all that kind of fun stuff. Then we get back in the boat. We go fish a little bit more, normally for small trout, which are typically in the 3 to 5 foot section in my region. And the fish are, super cooperative most of the time, and my son could catch quite a few. Then we'd go back home. Now, I would always try to cut the trip short so that my son got tired of what he was doing before he got bored with it. Bring tons of snacks, juice boxes. His own personal bait bucket and bait net was really important because he had his stuff that he could play with, and we could put a bait in his bait bucket, and he could play with it all he wanted to without killing everything else in the bait well. If we had bought bait. And most trips ended with him saying, "Hey Dad, can we stay out just a little bit longer?" And sometimes we would, and sometimes I'd say, "No, let's just wait till next time." And I think this approach really worked because without pressuring him to sit down and shut up constantly, he's grown up into a full-time fishing guy just like myself. He loves to be on the water, and it's just turned into a fantastic career for him. Well, I got a picture here of him fishing when we were down in the Keys one time. This was the first little fish that he caught while we were chumming for yellowtail snapper one day. Yep. And that particular day, he wanted to stay out the whole rest of the day. It was amazing.
You got a minute and a half left in your report, so you better roll, bub.
cute
All right,
picture,
buddy.
though.
Well, the mangrove snapper are my offshore species for this week, and it's heating up, getting ready to start catching a bunch more of these in the 70 to 140 foot depths. Most of the fish are running 3 to 5 pounds. Some of them are going up to 10. Look out for dolphin that are swimming up to the boat. Whenever you're chunking and chumming for these fish, and I've got a picture here of Wilder Evans, who did just that. He pitched a piece of chunk bait and caught that little dolphin while he was doing some snapper fishing.
All right, tell us about the
Inshore.
redfish.
Redfish is going really good. Browns Bay, Calalisa Creek, Rose Bay, and Bissett Bay are all really good areas right now. Finger mullet, croakers, and live shrimp are the best baits. Put them on a 1/0 size hook or throw a 4-inch saltwater assassin sea shad in the Houdini or silver mullet color. And I've got a picture here of some twins that got a nice redfish with Captain Mark Gibson the other day. And then my last species is sharks. And the sharks are everywhere right now, but they're really in the creeks and the rivers in the Sebastian area through Melbourne. Most of the Mosquito Lagoon, deeper flats, so you can catch them as well. And then anywhere along the beach, from Satellite Beach up to Bethune Beach, we've got some great fishing action for blacktip, fine tooth, and spinner sharks right now. Most of them are going about 15 pounds, but some of them are going up to 100. And I've got my last picture here with Justin Gibson and Carter and Brody fishing out of Ponce Inlet with a beautiful shark that they caught, that those two boys tag teamed up on.
Sorry to hurry you along there, bud, but we got a lot of stuff tonight, so we got to keep it tight.
It's all good. It's all good, man. Take them kids fishing no matter what. Take them fishing.
All right. Thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Rodan Marine Systems hotspots from the Central East region. He says tarpon along the beaches from Sebastian to Canaveral. Drift or slow troll live pogies on a circle hook near pods of bait. And then offshore mangrove snappers on the high relief structure in 90 to 140 foot depth. Use grunt plugs, small live croakers, or finger mullets on a standard bottom rig.
All right, well, Jim did good, but there are a lot more tips coming from our Sea Sucker Panhandle region Captain Pat Deneen on how to get the youngsters out there in the big old blue and loving it. Enlighten us, Pat.
Hey, Brie, I tell you what, the Panhandle region has lots of opportunities for kids fishing. But, you know, kids, in my opinion, they generally want to go catch it and not fish it. So go catch it. Even obscure species like a pinfish is probably the most first catch for many youngsters. I know it was for my daughter, Katie. So for the kids, it's about action and involvement. And if the answer to the question is, can I eat it, is yes, then even better. So, you know, Spanish mackerel, bluefish, ladyfish, great species to target with kids because they are numerous, they fight well, and for their size, and they can be readily caught on live baits and lures. Basically, target a fishery that is going to provide plenty of action. But if the action is slow, a few live baits in a bucket go a long way towards keeping, you know, a youngster engaged with the activity. Many tournaments in our region have junior divisions that are entirely geared towards kids, and every rodeo-style tournament in our region has junior divisions. Additionally, lots of guides are offering midday or early afternoon 2 or 3 hour kids trips, basically where they're burning up the rest of the bait in the live well for the morning trip. They're focusing on catching and getting young anglers involved, so that's a pretty good thing. There's a photo I got from Captain Chuck Kemper. He put a smile on these kids' faces with a hard fight in Jackerville, and every one of those kids had a chance to pull on this guy, and I'm sure they're still talking about it today.
Lucky Chucky.
Staying inshore, the redfish has been good throughout the region. You want to fish near the shoreline, targeting points, creek mouths, and deeper pockets. We've had recent high water. It's got them pushed up well into the grassy backwaters of our bays. West Bay in Panama City has plenty of creeks and basins that are good for exploring on these high water days. High water is also good for the residential docks in western Santa Rosa Sound. You know, docks with large boats on a lift often have a deep hole under the lift the reds like to hang out in. You want to cast prospecting baits like spoons and weedless soft plastics, or break out the cast net and fish with live menhaden or pilchards. Depending on the depth and current, either free line your baits or use a Carolina rig. And there's a nice photo of a nice redfish caught by a young angler. He was fishing with Captain Jason and Take It Deep charters at Choctahatchee Bay. You know, Captain Jason putting more smiles on youngsters' faces. Moving offshore, we've had some real strong squalls come through, affecting both inshore and offshore fishing. But weather conditions hopefully are improving, and offshore plenty of red snappers are being caught. And again, this is a perfect species to target with kids. They're plentiful, strong fighting, and good eating. The season is open in both state and federal waters well into July, and the snappers are being caught on natural and man-made structure. And if you're new to snapper fishing, you know, go to the county website for wherever you want to fish. There's going to be a list of GPS coordinates of artificial reefs that were, you know, produced with public money. And those are all great places to find red snappers. You want to use smaller live baits like cigar minnows, herrings, or maybe even live shrimp. Or you can cut bait and chum. But be sure to have a vending tool so that you can properly release any undersized fish or fish you want to let go. And there's a photo there, and it's not of a red snapper, but it is a stoked young angler who was fishing with Captain Brady on the boat up out of Destin with the amberjack he caught and released while he was snapper fishing this week. And that smile says it all right there. And then finally, Rick, offshore, the king mackerel are starting to show up in the region in decent numbers. They're being caught in the Gulf around bait schools and over bottom structures. The kings are being caught mostly by live baiting, either free lining a bait while bottom fishing or by slow trolling. Cigar minnows and herrings on a stinger rig are definitely the most common setup for king fishing. And it pays to fish a line or two deep, either using a downrigger or a trolling lead. And if the bite is slow, change it up a little bit. Add a small duster, for some color to your rig, or instead of using wire ahead of your nose hook on your stinger rig, use 60-pound fluorocarbon. A little bit more stealthy, you might get more bites. Additionally, trolling spoons and lip plugs can be really effective, and the kings are running 8 to 15 pounds for the most part.
All right, thank you so much, Pat. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the blue water outrigger hotspots from the Panhandle region. He says, get a live well full of live bait and fish the dock lights in Fort Walton Beach for redfish and trout. The docks with the moving water and the little deeper are going to work the best. And then offshore, the weather conditions have improved for red snapper fishing. Fish hard bottom areas in 80+ feet of water with live bait to catch them snappers.
Snappers. All right, another generous swag donator. The Casa Vieja Southwest region is taking us fishing next. But first, we are seeing what surprises Ron McGill from Zoo Miami has for our young anglers when we come back. Ron, what do you have over there?
Well, here's a hint. It's not a fish.
Oh, no.
It's not a fish.
It's not. All right, we'll be back for the slithery surprise.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Penn, let the battle begin. Alta Equipment Company, where uptime matters. Ameritrail, load, launch, relax. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. Discover Crystal River, Florida. Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, best lures, period. And Maverick Boat Group, makers of premium boat brands Maverick, Hughes, Pathfinder, and Cobia.
Well, as you can see, joining me is my good friend Ron McGill from Zoo Miami. And we're going to be trolling the edge, obviously, like we do with new products. But this week, we're not talking about new products. We're talking about invasive species here in South Florida. Right?
Exactly. South Florida is a melting pot for non-native species. This is one. This is a boa. Still hasn't been called invasive, even though it's starting to finding populations here in South Florida, down by the Deering Estate and such. They're roaming free. The one we hear about, of course, is the python. Both of these are large constrictors. One of the big differences is that boas give birth to live babies. They don't lay eggs. Oh. Pythons lay eggs. So boas, this is a medium-sized one. These things can get to be 15 feet long. Wow. They're not venomous. What I want to tell all the kids out there is just because you see me holding this, never, ever approach a snake in the wild. I want you to know that snakes are more afraid of you than you are of them. If you see a snake, just go the other way. I promise you the snake will go the other way too. But they're not all venomous. Most of them are not venomous. This is a constrictor. But a lot of people confuse snakes for other animals.
Right.
So I want to show you another animal, okay? Yeah. Hold on. Michelle, they told me you could hold this. Is that okay? You sure? Just to hold it like that? And just hold it like this. And just keep just hold it like this. That's it. Just like a tree branch. Perfect. Okay, so now we have another animal that the first I'm going to pull it out and people are going to say, oh my gosh, it's another snake. But it's not a snake, okay? It is a lizard.
No.
Yes.
Come on.
This is a legless lizard from Florida. Cool animal. And one of the ways you tell the difference is that lizards have eyelids. So lizards can close their eyes. Snakes don't have eyelids. They can never close their eyes. Also, if you look real closely, they got a little hole behind their eye, which is their ear. Snakes do not have external ears. They cannot hear like you and I can. So lizards do have external ears. So this is a lizard, and from here down is all tail. It's called a glass lizard because if it gets really frightened, it'll drop its tail and it'll break up into pieces so that the prey that's trying to eat it will go after the tail and it can go hide itself underneath the ground. This is a subterranean lizard. Again, this is not the species found here in Florida, but there are some that look like this found here in Florida, non-venomous. Again, when you guys are out fishing, you're going to come across a lot of these things. When you go along the waterside, along the canals, around whatever you're fishing, you may see these things. I don't want you to panic. It looks really slimy, right? But touch it. Rick, is it slimy?
No, not at all.
No, it's like a cold plastic, you see? And that's because
Now, do these bite you, Ron?
they can bite you. And that's, I don't want to mislead people. When you see me holding these animals, I don't want you to think, oh, I saw Ron hold it, so I can just pick it up and grab it. No, because these animals have been accustomed. They're ambassadors. So what they do is we use them to educate people, to let them know what they're like. But in the wild, they don't know that you're not going to hurt them. They think you might, and they may bite you. So we'll put him back right here. I got to tell you, Michelle, you are the bomb over there with that boa. You've done a heck of a job. I was pretty impressed with that. So anyway, these are all things that I want people to understand. When you're out there fishing, you're going to come across other wildlife. And with that other wildlife, I don't want you to panic. I want you to understand that we got to learn to coexist with this wildlife because it all plays an important role in our health.
So, Ron, one other thing, let's talk a little bit about if they do encounter, like all the different fish that we have. You and I filmed a show in the Everglades, and we caught 7 or 8 different species. What should we do? What are the things that we're recommending now, FWC as well as you guys? How should we approach all this?
If you're picking up an invasive species fish, I know it's hard to say, but you shouldn't put it back. Okay? If you're picking up a fish that's an invasive species, not peacock bass, peacock's non-native, but it's not an invasive species. It's a beneficial species that was purposely left here for sport fishing. But if you were to pick up something like
snakehead,
a snakehead, exactly, a
knife
snakehead,
fish.
Clownfish, Oscars, a lot of the cichlids that are non-native and can be invasive, those animals, don't return them back to the water. You're doing the service by taking it out so the native animals can have a better way around. They don't have as much competition. Same thing with non-native snakes.
So let's talk a little bit about the zoo. You got kids camps as well.
We have kids camps out there now. Yeah, it's all summer long. You go out there and the zoo's your classroom, man. You go out there, you go see how they feed the tigers, how they prepare the diets. You learn about different things with animals. It's a neat camp, I got to tell you. It sells out every year, but it's a neat camp. If you get a chance to get in there, call the zoo and set them up for camp because it's a lot of fun. Kids come home really tired. For the parents, that's great because they go right to sleep and then you can have your own time and it's fantastic.
Parents got to have their own time, I can tell you that. So one other question. Let's talk a little bit about your foundation.
I'm really proud, Rick. I have the Ron McGill Conservation Endowment at the zoo, and I established that endowment to help support wildlife in the wild where it belongs. I will say this, and it's going to sound kind of strange coming from me, but in a perfect world, we wouldn't need any zoos. I would never, ever support taking an animal out of the wild and putting it in captivity to have it on exhibit. We have animals that are born in captivity. They're kept in captivity under human care, but the goal for the zoo is to protect animals in the wild. I've come up with that endowment. I've raised money to create the endowment, and I'm very proud because every year that endowment gives away over $100,000 just to conservation in the field, including fishing conservation, things like that.
So if they want to get in contact with you through the zoo, what website would they go to? We have the zoo site here.
Yeah, zoomiami.org, and that'll take you right there, and you can go to Ron McGill Conservation Endowment. It's a totally tax-deductible donation if you care to make that, and what you're doing is you're just making an investment in protecting the wild. Because here in Florida, man, this is a special place we live in.
Thank you so much, Ron, for being here. Guys, we're going to go ahead and keep moving. We got more reports to do.
All right, the kids in the Pasadena House Southwest region are catching whatever's biting. So let's see what that might be with Captain Ronnie Houston.
Well, you know what? When it comes to kids, keeping it simple and making it easy will hopefully give them the desire to move on to bigger and better things. So on the freshwater side, most local lakes, ponds, and canals, you can simply use oats or bread chummed up, and that's going to attract most brim, Oscars, as well as bluegills. But if you want to chase down different species, nothing really beats a live shiners. And if you're in the Naples area, Serenity Bait and Tackle usually has plenty of these in stock. You can use these shiners free-line or under a cork like the Bass Assassin Oval Cork Cork, and that'll catch you peacocks or largemouth bass on the freshwater side in my region. Now on the saltwater side, your beaches, your passes, easy access, the walk, simple bucktail jigs tipped with shrimp. Or you can get live shrimp, use cut shrimp on the bottom, live pilchards, live pinfish, and a lot of this stuff can be bought at most of your local tackle shops. Baits would smell and swim. You wouldn't be using them free-lined or under a cork. It's going to make it the most convenient for keeping them, paying attention, and to catch a variety of fish. And it really doesn't matter what they're catching. By keeping them focused, most important, hopefully they're entertained, and they'll move on to bigger and better things as they get older. And I have a picture of one of the Pruitt girls who's been fishing since she's a little girl. Dad's always taking kids out fishing. She's just about grown up now, and there's a nice snook caught by one of the Pruitts. Now, on the inshore side, the snook. Captain Chris McCoven reports from Round Key, Cape Romano to Gordon's Pass, your beaches and passes bite has been good on your outgoing tide. But what's been happening to us in the last couple weeks, The southwest winds have stained the waters, which really has actually helped the bite because the water's not so clear and the fish aren't as spooky. But your incoming tides have been better in the backwaters. But for higher water along the wind-blown shorelines, points with current combined with blowdowns and deadwood. Best baits right now have been working in those conditions have been live pilchards, spread fins, and pinfish, either knocker-rigged or free line. Have a nice picture of a snook that was just recently caught while working that pattern with Captain Chris McCubbin. The offshore side, the red snappers. Market of Fort Myers Beach, according to Captain Mike Avedon, with a starting depth of about 140 feet and beyond, looking for areas of bait on your bottom finder. You want to look for these off the bottom. You can drift across some of these areas to locate quality fish, and if so, come back around and anchor up. Doesn't matter how big or small these pieces are, they're holding fish. Once you find them, there's also not a need to stay at a spot too long. These red snappers are really triggered, have been chewing, keep moving on if they're not biting. Or you can use a variety of cut baits if they're not biting. Mix it up to see what they like the most out of most of the baits you're using. Live baits like pinfish, grunts, and cigar minnows will work on the slower current days. And here's a red snapper just recently caught since red snapper season opened with Mike Avedon. Last species is going to be the gag groupers to the north with Captain Bo Johnson. He says he's really concentrating in depths for these fish right now, 145 to 160. That range has been important for him to be catching these quality gags. Moving around has been key. Instead of staying in one spot, he's also moving around. You want to try to pick up the fish in those depths. Results, if you get them in those depths, they're going into the box. He also says cut baits have been doing better for him, but you can also drift using bucktails with squid or vertical jigs to locate the fish, mark the spot, drop back, and anchor up using baits. And I got a picture of a variety of fish that Bo's been catching up to the north: wild gag grouper, and red snapper fishing.
All right, Ronnie, I got to ask you something. So what's your favorite thing to do when you take kids fishing, bud?
You know what? Probably the most famous thing to do is taking them out and doing something simple. I like to get a variety of large bait, live bait, and take them to areas maybe to possibly catch some redfish, some trout. I don't try to chase the snooks and the tarpons and the motherfish. I just try to do it simple, using live baits or bucktails tipped with shrimp, catching a variety of trout and some trash fish that are in the area out on the saltwater flats.
All right, bud, thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Serenity Bait Company's hot spots from the Southwest region. He says inshore juvenile tarpon from the West Pass through Everglades backcountry. Concentrate on the feeder creeks that dump out into the middle of the bays along the lee shorelines. And then offshore, tunas, sailfish, wahoos start in 130 feet of water. Look for the birds and troll feathers or ballyhoos.
All right, well, Rick, when the kids arrived earlier today, we had some fishing fun over in Studio B. So let's see how we got all the zoomies out, shall we?
All right.
So we're over here in Studio B. As you can see, this is the registration booth. This is where you get signed up for all the good stuff, all the raffles, am I right? This man has a Florida Insider Fishing Report hat. He's got the Fish Bite shirt. He's all swagged out, and this is where you get the backpack. Oh yeah. We have our daiquiri deck table, Miss Michelle, with all of her shirts. Thank you so much for participating in our kids show today.
Thank you for having us.
We're here at our CCA Star booth. We're with Andrea and Lisa. They're always doing great things for the kids. They give out hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships. And they're here giving out chapstick and keychains and all of the things we need to be a CCA member.
Yeah.
We have a knot tying station, which is really neat. The kids can see a detailed view of how certain knots are supposed to be done with a bigger rope. And we're taking some photos with all the fish. We're here with Fish Bites. Scott, thank you for being here at our kids show. You guys make the best baits, hands down, adults and kids, but tell us why Fish Bites is so perfect for kids and fishing.
I think number one, because it catches fish, but number two, because it stays on the hook.
And we even have some of our captains with us. Our Fish Bites East Region Captain Mike Holliday, and of course our Yanmar ASV Keys Region Captain Sarah Stanzik. They're giving all the kiddos some little tattoos. We're here at the IGFA booth, and they've got these kids making some really cool art out of plastic that they found out of the ocean. I believe that is a mahi-mahi. We're having so much fun over here. Thanks everyone for coming, and I'm gonna get back to the Cupid Shuffle. Kick now, walk it by yourself.
Now walk it by yourself. Right, 2, 3, 4, and left.
We had so much fun over there, Rick. This is my daughter, Mia.
Mia.
Yeah.
Were you
we had
dancing
her.
over there? You having fun?
We were dancing.
Good.
Thank you to all the sponsors that came. It really was such a good time. So generous, Rick. We really have a good team behind us. So it was a great time. But next up, is the East and Southeast regions, plus our friend from CCA Star is here. So stick around and we'll see you when we come back. And you know what? See that QR code on your screen? Make sure you scan it right now to get exclusive access to our live audience sign up throughout the season and all of our social media channels. And we'll be uploading new videos on our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. Now we'll be right back.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by StarTron. Start, run, and store with StarTron. Berkeley, your fish, our science. CCA Florida, the voice of recreational anglers for over 35 years. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. The Florida Keys and Key West. Come as you are. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. And Strike Zone Fishing.
Well, as you can see, I have Captain Lisa Fitzgerald from CCA Star joining me. But Lisa, in some of our B-roll, we had Cade and Carly, and as you saw them in the CCA commercial and all those redfish footage, they were much smaller than they are now. And this is what happens when they keep fishing and you keep feeding them.
Yeah.
So he's with CCA. His dad's one of the lobbyists for CCA, and then the executive director is Brian Gorski. This is his daughter.
And don't forget the little one down on the end.
Oh yeah,
That's
Finn.
Yeah.
Finn is our wild man, right, Finn? All right, but let's talk a little bit about CCA Star Kids and what we got going tonight.
Well, with all these wonderful children here, we want to thank you so much. Every one of them has a free CCA membership.
Yay!
And so thank you to all of you, which gives them entry into the Star competition. This year, we have $100,000 in the Real Tree Fishing Youth Scholarship Division. We're giving away 12 scholarships.
Wow.
2 $25,000 scholarships and 10 $5,000 scholarships. All you guys have to do is go fishing, take pictures of your fish, submit them through the Star Tournament app on the official measuring device, which you can pick up at any of our distribution locations. And we are awarding $100,000 in cash in scholarships. But to date, we've awarded $800,000 in college scholarships. This year, we'll make $900,000.
Wow. So where do we go to get that official measuring device, Lisa?
You can go to just about any distribution location, any bait and tackle shop, West Marine, Crook and Crook. Many of the bait and tackle shops have them. If they don't, Academy Sports and Outdoors has them. If they don't have them, ask them why they don't. We'll make sure that they get them.
All right. So where do they find out more information about the tournament if they're not registered?
You can go to our website at ccaflstar.com. We'll get you registered right there. Or you can give us a call at 844-387-7827, and you can get registered right over the phone. So thank you very much, Rick, and I hope to see one of these kids as a winner.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Lisa. But you know what? Our Fish Bites East Region captain has been here with us all day having fun with the kiddos. Mike, I know you like to have fun and keep it simple with them, but you know what? That also applies to us adults too, if I can recall.
It kind of is applicable to adults as well.
Yeah, it is. All right, well, let's get to your report.
Well, the whole key with kids is keep it simple. Make sure there's plenty of action. They really don't care what they catch as long as they're catching something. It may be as simple as taking them to the beach, let them fish for whiting and croakers, or grab a bunch of pilchards and glass minnows, go to a shallow wreck like the Shark Barge, or David T, or the Power Plant, chum up some blue runners, Spanish mackerel, or bonita. Just make it fun. Try to use light tackle because they can't handle those heavier rods. And then as they get more experience, you can shiner fish from a bank or a local lake or pond. You can pitch pilchards under or shrimp under a cork for snook trout and redfish, or set out a spread of live bait offshore on 20-pound gear. Keep the gear light. Provide a lot of praise and enthusiasm. That's what they really want to they need that reinforcement. Don't be afraid to call the day early if they lose interest. That's what my kids like to do. They like to fish for a couple hours. Then they want to head to the sandbar and have pub subs and go for a swim. Just make it a day to remember, and they'll want to go again. I got a great photo that Spencer Berg, he needed a little help with his from his father Davis to hoist that snook he caught along the beach off Hope Sound.
That's a beautiful fish.
Yeah, that fish ate a live pilchard right off the beach. And speaking of snook, the catch and release snook actions really picked up around the inlets and along the beaches this week. The bait really pushed in on the beach, and the snook are there anytime the food is around. So places like the Lake Worth or Juneau Pier, Hope Sound Beach, South Beach, and Fort Pierce and the Vero Cove are all on fire right now. If you see a wall of pilchards or sardines on the beach, you can fish the outside edges of the bait with a copper juice colored saltwater assassin 4-inch sea shad, or you can throw a net, get a few baits, and free line them on the edges of the bait schools. And then around the inlets, the outgoing tides are going to light up the snook bite. But if you're seeing fish that won't bite, there's likely a shark or a barracuda around. Live croakers, sardines, pilchards, and threadfins are going to be top baits around the inlets. I got a good snook photo there that Captain Ed Zayek sent me of Nate with the first snook he ever caught.
Wow, congratulations, Mr. Nate.
This week he caught that fish, so pretty cool.
Snook. All right, let's go offshore, Mike.
Well, the current picked up this week, and at the same time, we got a strong push of bait onto the beaches, particularly off Martin and St. Lucie counties. Add in the westerly winds. That's had the kings feeding along the beaches from the Church Rocks off Jupiter to the Kingfish Hole off Hope Sound. There's a lot of bonita in the mix also, but some really consistent kingfish action. There's also been a good number of kings out deeper. They're catching them from the reef straight out of Lake Worth Inlet to the offshore bar in Fort Pierce. Target to fish with a live or dead Spanish sardine, threadfin or blue runner. Average king 12 to 25 pounds. Fish to 40 pounds or more. R&R Kingfish rig is the way to go there. Don Cooper sent me this nice shot. A 5-year-old Brantley, I hope I don't mess up your last name, Mario Reno, with a kingfish they caught on St. Lucie Inlet on a live threadfin. And then the other thing we got, the day the current picked up offshore, the mutton snapper bite went from good to off the chart good in places like the reef off Jupiter, the Loran Ledge, the Sand Pile, and the 85-foot reef out of Fort Pierce. Seems like the best spots also have a lot of kings in the area, which tells me there's a lot of bait and a lot of pieces of bait fish sinking to the bottom as the kings take the tails off those baits. Best baits have been pilchards or grunt plugs, but anything from a sardine or cigar minnow to half a threadfin is working, or even a white jig with a strip of fish bites on it. A lot of the muttons that are in the 6 to 10 pound range, but we're seeing fish to 15 pounds or more right now.
All right, well, it is time for our bass report, and you're our bass king, so go ahead and give it to us, Pop.
Yeah, water levels are a bit high on Lake Okeechobee, and that's letting anglers get back into the grass to fish the bluegill beds, also giving them easy access to the shad schools. The lake is in its summer patterns with school bass chasing shad at dawn in the boat trails outside the mouth of the Kissimmee River, around Second Point and all the way down to Harney Pond. You just want to be on the water by 6 a.m., start your day throwing a Bass Assassin Boss Shiner or Elite Shiner or Turbo Shad. Any of those baits in the shad colors will work. Spinner baits and topwater plugs are also working. And, as the school bite slows down, look for the bluegill beds, work the black and blue RSB worm over the grass, pause in that worm in the potholes, or you can flip the isolated cattails with a creature bait or work the edges with a 10-inch June bug color worm. It's a 20 to 30 fish morning with fish to 8 pounds. I want to mention real quick, we've got a couple tournaments coming up in my region. The CCA Interchapter Challenge is this week at River Palms Cottages and Fish Camp, and then next week is leg 2 of the One More Bite Sailfish Challenge.
All right, Mike, so I got a question for you. I know that you love catching big snooks, but we've had a lot of west wind that's been certainly affecting the west coast. How's that west wind been helping your fishing on the beach and in the inlets?
It has, because it's cleaned up the water. The bait's in there, it's nice and calm. The fish, it's kind of interesting because as a little wave washes up on the beach, you see the snook ride the wave up and then go back down. So they're in real tight on the trough feeding. Anytime you get that west wind, bait all pushes to the beach, those fish will be right in tight to shore. All you gotta do is step in the water and cast parallel to the beach. Don't throw out, throw right along the beach, 3 or 4 feet away from shore. And you'll whack those snook.
What should they be using for lure, bait?
You know what I'm throwing? Saltwater Assassin, 4-inch sea shad, copper juice,
Green Hornet.
Green Hornet's a great
Houdini.
color. Houdini's good. If the water's a little bit tainted on the outgoing tide, the Houdini is money.
Guys, it doesn't come from any better when it comes to the East region right here.
Yep.
Our man,
Thank you, guys.
Captain Mike Holliday. Don't go anywhere. We're going to thank you, appreciate you for being here.
Good seeing you
And all
guys.
the Bahio. We got a new set of great.
We're all tatted up tonight.
Yeah, tats. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the T&H Marine hotspots. Mike says that this week we're going to actually go tarpon in the mouth of Big Mud Creek, live mullet or Houdini colored bass assassin on a 4-inch sea shad, and then sailfish, kingfish, blackfin tunas, and 110 to 160 feet of water between Stewart and Jupiter. Live threadfins, pilchards, or sardines is going to work.
All right, well, we're keeping the kiddies occupied in the Dynapack Southeast region, and Captain Jimbo Thomas definitely knows how to do that because he's just one big kid himself. Jimbo.
And hopefully I never change, Bree.
Nope, hopefully
and
you never
hello,
do.
Rick and Dave and everybody else in the studio there. So, yeah, it doesn't matter what's on the end of the line as long as it's a fish. Now, catching blue runners and pinfish for bait, that's often the highlight of the day when we have some young kids out. We like to use light spinning outfits that they can easily handle. And you can go to any of your local tackle store and buy a nice pin combo for relatively inexpensive, or you can spend a lot of money if you want to. But another great way to keep the broadfin over is to anchor up on any of the shallow reefs throughout the region and fish with live or dead shrimp. And you can usually keep everyone occupied catching small fish like grunts, jacks, small snappers, and other assorted reef fish. And if you don't have a boat, another great way to get kids on the water for a fairly reasonable price is on one of the many party fishing boats that operate throughout the region. And they usually can supply you or rent the tackle. And then any of the lakes or canal throughout the region, also great places to fish for bass and brim. You don't need a boat. You could usually just fish off the bank. And then here in the Southeast region, there's a couple of youth fishing programs and camps. Captain Mike Puller aboard the Lisa L, who fishes out of Key Biscayne, he runs a youth fishing experience camp. It's called the Fishing Experience, which is a totally hands-on offshore sport fishing camp for ages 7 and up. And he's in his 22nd or 23rd year or something like that. He's been doing it quite a while. And then Wayne Kahn, who operates the Reward Boats out of Miami, he runs youth educational fishing programs and day camps. He calls it Kids Let's Go Fishing, and kids under 12 fish for free aboard his party boat with paid adults. Now, I got a photo here. This is Josh, Julian, and Jacob Bernardi with some nice schoolie dolphin that we caught aboard the Thomas Flyer last week.
Nice.
And they had never caught mahis before, so they were happy little anglers.
Oh, cool.
That makes a happy captain when that happens.
Yep.
Happy
So-
Cappy.
So catch and release snook fishing in the inlet's still our best inshore bet. The snook, they're schooled up on all the inlets of the region, throughout the region, and are being caught on live pilchards, herrings, pinfish, and croakers, and mullet. You want to fish them near the bottom on a Jupiter rig. A lot of these are really big snook up into the 20-pound range. So use some heavier leader, 50-pound fluoro, 5.0 to 6.0 circle hooks. If you don't have any live bait available, you can try working some chartreuse, R&R flare hawk jigs, or 4-inch Bass Assassin jerk baits along the bottom. Both the incoming and outgoing tides have been good early in the morning or late in the afternoon into the evening. Got another photo here. This is William Flynn, little Willie Flynn, with a big Biscayne Bay snook. I believe that one was way over slots.
Yeah, it looks to be for sure. Let's go offshore, bud.
You got it. The dolphin fish has picked up in the last week. We've been finding schools of fish anywhere from 5 to 12 miles offshore. But the problem is a lot of these fish are on the small side. So we've been picking through a lot of these little guys, keeping the legals, and then tagging and releasing the short ones. Typically, when you hit a school, those larger fish are going to be the first ones to bite. That's why they're the biggest or the most aggressive. And once the size starts to shrink, move on, look for another school. Don't just sit there and keep catching these little guys. Let's let them grow up. Now, most of the schools have been under birds and some scattered sargassum and larger patches. And some of them, especially under the birds and the bigger fish, have been traveling to the south. And they haven't been too finicky. We've been getting them on the troll with rig ballyhoo and R&R mahi magnets in pink and white or blue and white. And then once we find the fish, we've been pitching small live bait to them and also cut bonita. Got another photo here. And this is the crew from Austin's Dive Shop that we had out last week with some nice dolphin. I think we had 18 keepers that day, so not too terrible. They're starting to get better. But then moving in a little closer to shore, the nighttime mangrove snapper bite's been really starting to go off. The mangroves, which have been anywhere from 2 to 7 pounds, are being found on the outside of reef from 40 to 80 feet of water, and they start to bite most nights just after dark. Anchor up on hard ledgy bottom with sea fans on the outside edge of the reef and fish with a knocker rig with just enough weight to hold bottom. Go with some light leader, 30 or 40 pound mono or fluoro, and 1/0 to 3/0 hooks. Best baits have been ballyhoo plugs and cup bonita. And if you got any lights on out there on the reef, there's a good chance you're going to get some bait up there like pilchards and goggle eyes. You can catch those on an R&R sabiki, put those back out for bait. Now, the party boat Reward out of Bayside, he's been doing some night trips. He's been finding mangrove snappers along with a mix of yellowtail and muttons on the reef off Government Cut. They recommend to not put out any chum since that'll spread the fish out and also attract a lot of bait stealers and also attract the sharks. And they've been eating a lot of their hooked fish, the bull sharks have.
So, Jimbo, I got a question for you. A lot of guys are using dead goggle eyes for mutton snapper baits. How are they rigging those, bub?
So they're using a knocker rig, and typically they're cutting those in half because they're fishing for mutton snappers usually when they're doing that, but a big mangrove's just as likely to eat it. Cutting them in half so you get 2 baits out of 1 goggle eye.
All right, thank you so much for clearing that up. We're gonna go ahead and take a look at the hot spots from the southeast region. Jimbo says fish your local inlet late in the afternoon with live or artificial baits to catch and release snook and poons. And then offshore, look for the dolphin offshore under the birds, scattered weeds, and anything floating debris.
The breeze got the wiggles like all the kitties in here. We need to stand up and get these wiggles out. School's out for summer in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region, so keep on snacking. And we'll be right back on the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Everybody stand up and get your wiggles out. No? All right. It's just me.
They didn't follow you.
The Florida Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Fenwick. Feel everything. Island Lures. Tournament Tackle. The IGFA. Every fish, every water, every angler since 1939. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Real Legends. Available at bellsflorida.com. Dynapack. Your partner on the road. And Taco Marine. Troll the edge.
Today I would like to go over a little more advanced technique when using a power pole shallow water anchor. First thing I do when leaving the dock is pay attention to the wind direction and the sun. My goal is to fish all shorelines, flats, or docks with the wind and the sun at my back. Doing this gives me the best shot at sneaking up on fish and spotting them from further away. It also dramatically increases my casting distance. Throwing with the wind as opposed to casting directly into the wind is another key tip. Another advantage to approaching spots like this, when I'm working an area with the wind at my back, I do not have to use my trolling motor nearly as much. I also don't have to turn it up on higher speeds, which reduces hole slap and other noises that could spook fish. I'm trying to be as stealthy as possible and let the wind push me down a shoreline, giving me the best advantage possible. When I see a fish or I hook up, I deploy the power pole silently in the water. My boat remains facing downwind, even with a single power pole anchor. Next time you're out on the water, fish with the wind and the sun at your back, and I guarantee your catches will go up. That's your power pole tip.
What a guarantee that is.
How about that?
All right, well, the smiles go for miles in the Discover Crystal River Northwest region, especially when Captain Jeff Hageman gets the kiddies on some fishies. Hey, Hag, how's it going?
Good. One of my favorite things to do is take a kid fishing. They're one of my most memorable and rewarding charters I have. The look on their faces when you catch a kid, their biggest fish or their first fish is absolutely priceless. Some of my most memorable moments fishing with my dad, over the years has been some of the things I cherish the most and remember the most is fishing with my pops. So with the hundreds of lakes, piers, parks, miles of accessible shorelines, lakes, rivers in my region, there's no excuse to not take a kid out there fishing, stay on the water. If you're not a fisherman yourself, watching a show, talking to your local bait shops on info and gear, or local fishing seminars and clubs are a great way to learn how to fish. If you're not a fisherman, you want to get your kid out there fishing, or you can hire a guide for the day. Get out there with a guide, get that younger kid out there fishing. The younger, the better. Introduce your kid out in the outdoors is nothing greater, and some of my greatest memories. And I got a photo here of my niece Samantha with her first fish ever a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
Her first pinfish.
Cute.
Wow.
The only thing she said was, again.
Oh, perfect.
Wow. That's
all you need to
exactly
hear.
told you how she feels.
Yeah, she said again. So we caught another one, and then she said again, and then we did it again. So
that's all right.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and talk about St. Joe Bay. What you got?
Captain Lee Thompson reports a tough trout bite this week on St. Joe Bay. Trout have been caught early in the morning, late in the evening for the most part. Pinfish, alewives, or we call them sardines, fished on the deeper channels, edges, fished on the bottom with 18 to 24 inches of fluorocarbon leader and a 2-aught or a 2 tail hook or a 2-aught circle hook is what he's using, and fishing them right there on the bottom. With tarpon season in full swing still, the tarpon are here, and with them are the big sharks right now, big hammerheads, big bull sharks, and lots of them. Wire leader is a must for fishing most of their sharks in our region. Stingrays, bonita are great baits. Anything oily will work. Chum, and more chum will bring them to the back of your boat. Or if you're fishing from a pier or something, chum there too. Having a chum slick out will increase your hookup rate quite dramatically. And I got a couple photos here of some unbelievable bull sharks with Captain Bo Johnson and his young son Gage.
Wow.
Captain Patrick McAfee with his son Jace. Great job for getting those young ones out there. There's some great big bull sharks.
Yeah, and you know, all the kids always know about sharks and barracudas. They're certainly the species they all want to go catch. All right, tell us about Big Nasty Charters.
Captain Rob reports from Big Nasty Charters out of St. Pete. Red snapper season's open now, and there's plenty of these beauties out there. They can be caught in anywhere from 150 to 180 feet of water. He's finding them on live bottom. Look for the bigger ones, higher in the water column. He's also finding them on bait stacks out there. So as you're running out, look at your bottom machine. You see a spike on your bottom machine. If you're running out, either mark it and turn around and look at it, or it might be a new spot you can find while you're running out there to look. Knocker rig or a standard bottom rig with 60 to 80 pound fluorocarbon leader and a 6 to 8-aught circle hook. 6 to 8 ounces of lead has been working best. And squid for bait. Squid, and more squid. And I've got a beautiful red snapper photo from Big Nasty.
Hey, Bub, I got a question. You know, you're kind of my barometer for the poon. So what happened? Did they do anything on this moon on Saturday?
Yes, and we had that big storm, too. We had a storm come in, and it blew pretty heavy. It blew up to 30 miles an hour. So a lot of our fish went offshore. They're hiding from those sharks right now. So as soon as it blows hard and the water gets dirty, they can't see the sharks and they get uncomfortable, so they head offshore. So a lot of our fish broke and went offshore. The guys today that went out didn't find them and didn't get to go offshore and find them. So once we get a nice break in this wind, we'll be able to bust offshore. And as soon as you get to that clean water line, it's where you're going to find them.
All right, well, I'm leaving to go to Destin on Thursday. So selfishly, my friend, I just hope that they all just don't come back. They just go right on up to Destin and come visit me.
They
all right.
will.
All right,
They
bud,
will.
thank you so much. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Ozella Key Marina hotspots from the Northwest region. He says inshore, snook along the beaches and the passes, drift a pinfish on an outgoing tide, probably on one of those standard bottom rigs. And then offshore, mangrove snappers on the near shore and offshore ledges and rock piles. Use sardines and shrimp on a knocker rig, Brie.
All right, Rick, the reports are in and the kids are ready to get out there and fish, especially with their new rod and reel combos from Pure Fishing Tackle, Tackle Box Essentials from Eagle Claw, and Fish Bites. But you know what, stay hooked for a little longer so we can tell you what our little ones might be reeling in next week. We'll be right back. next week
like that
we
one better.
are talking marlin. That's gonna be fun. But
Nice.
it was so much fun. Thank you everyone for being here. Kids, parents, sponsors. It's been so fun. Kids, have you had fun or what?
Did you have fun, Mia?
All right, well, they're gonna go catch some memories. Big thanks to our sponsors and swag donators, AFCO, Alta, Bahio, Bass Assassin, Captain Ridge Murphy, Daiquiri Deck, Diamond, Don's Bait and Tackle, Florida Coast Equipment, Heroes on the Water, Maverick, Power Pole, Rodan, Taka Marine, Taste Marine, and Yamaha. We have so many to thank. Everyone
Wow.
show off your Bahio tats.
Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah, wow. Bahio. Who
There we
has
go.
tattoos up
string of
here?
poons.
Let's see your tattoos. Did you kids have fun? Are we gonna go out and catch big fish?
Bye, guys.
Yeah, we are. Bye-bye, everybody.